Welcome to The Clash. It's just come out to 49 minutes after 3 o'clock now. Recent forecasts on global crude oil demands vary. However, they all point to one fact, that achieving net zero carbon emissions by 2050 is looking ridiculously unlikely. And polling in the UK has found that public support for several net zero policies has declined over the past 2 years. Measures such as frequent flyer levies, low traffic neighbourhoods or LTNs, subsidies for electric vehicles, all of these things have seen reduced backing. So is net zero dead? Or is this goal actually really, is it still realistic? Right, so joining me to discuss, writer, columnist and journalist Emma Wolf and political commentator Jonathan Liss. Oh, who's next? Is it you, Emma? Emma?
Well, look, unless we get serious about long-term investment in renewables, not these unpopular things like low traffic neighbourhoods, like electric cars, but not having enough charging points, unless we get long-term serious and do the investment that takes decades, then yes, net zero is dead.
There you are, total acceptance of the net zero narrative, total groupthink brainwashing, from a person, frankly, who does not understand a single element about the subject. But at least she is right. Unless you do these things, net zero is dead. Currently in the UK, less than 5% of our total energy is wind and solar, less than 5%. And I don't think people understand that, because the grid is only 20%. That electric grid is only 20% of our total emissions. So, that's it. And basically, around about a quarter of the grid at the moment is on renewables, but those renewables shove up the cost of gas. We have to keep gas turbines turning over, waiting for the opportunity to step in as the wind declines. It is a totally bonkers world. But this video is about these two people at either side of Nana Akua. And I'm sorry, I'm sure this is a nice lady, but she totally swallowed the bait. Completely brainwashed.
And it's not achievable by 2050. It's really, really ridiculous to decide to bring in, everybody's got to have electric cars, and then you haven't got enough charging points. Everybody's got to insulate their homes, but you haven't built homes with insulation. Fuel price, I mean, people would get behind this stuff if it made sense, if it was affordable, and if it worked.
I totally agree with her. A ray of common sense. If it made sense, well, it doesn't, because the idea that we control the climate by CO2 is just totally absurd. And the science points the exact opposite way and proves that's not the case. If it was affordable, no, it's hugely expensive. It's so affordable, make your eyes water. And if it worked, no, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. The renewables do not work. In fact, as a recent report from a green organisation stated, quite honestly, that analysts have known for a long time that a mix of wind and gas actually makes you more reliant on gas. It actually puts the gas price up. Some people estimate by about 25% of the gas price is inflated, because you have all the same overheads, the same stations, the same staff waiting in the background all the time to step in, sometimes fully, sometimes a little bit, and so on. You're producing less gas for all the same costs, basically, except for some, and only some saving on gas, and therefore it's more expensive. But, in this simplistic world of these journalists, like this lady, and social commentators, they don't understand even, well, it's not science, they don't understand the most basic things about how things work.
Lots of people are green and they want to save the planet. They want to achieve net zero, which, by the way, is a pretty meaningless term. You're never going to actually achieve net zero carbon emissions. But anyway, it's the term that we use. Unless we get serious about that and make it cross-party, because what they're doing is one party announces one thing, one party announces another. So you're constantly in this sort of short-term 4 to 5 year thing. We need long-term investment. It needs to be cross-party agreement, what we're going for, how we're going to achieve it, and then we go for it.
But you said it yourself, we're never going to achieve net zero. Jonathan?
In essence, this lady wants everyone to join in the groupthink and work together in groupthink time. No understanding, but lots of time on TV to spout this absolute nonsense.
Well, I think that not only does it need to be cross-party, it's more importantly, it needs to be sort of cross-national. It's one of those issues that we can't resolve on our own, obviously. And so that's, no one is claiming that the United Kingdom is going to be able to stop climate change alone.
Unfortunately, I've debated a few people on GB News who seem to think that we can stop climate change alone, that we've got to get there so we can turn down the temperature of the planet. Britain alone, because they don't bother with China and India and the rest, it makes no difference to them what we do, and it makes no difference to the temperature in any event. In fact, they're doing us a favour, pumping all the CO2 into the air.
But I do think...
Are you claiming that we can even stop it?
I'm certainly claiming that there are things that we can do. That's the
We
science.
can't stop it. You actually think we can stop climate change?
The science suggests that we can bring down climate, we can bring down sort of emissions, we can reverse some of the changes that have happened in the climate.
Like which ones?
Well, that we can sort of bring down the temperature, that rises. We can stop it from going above 1.5
Can we also, if we all stand under
degrees.
the moon, catch it if
Obviously,
it falls out of the
look,
sky?
These are meant to be adults saying this, that we can, by doing, controlling CO2 emissions, we control the temperature. What absolute rubbish. 1,000 years ago was warmer than today. 2,000 years ago in the Roman period, warmer than today. 3,000 years ago, warmer than today. They have no idea, these people. They really think they're so lacking in knowledge. They really think we've got control. How incredibly ignorant are these people. But Nana puts it right. She says, why don't we just get hold of the moon and bring it down to Earth? Because it's just about the same.
I would like to do things like slowing down consumption and looking at overconsumption.
Basically, without rhyme nor reason, this lady wants to control us. You see, this is the problem with these people, these commentators, social commentators, political commentators. They haven't a clue what they're talking about. And she just said, I'd like to do this. Well, actually, I'd like everyone to be paid a £50,000 a year salary and not cause inflation. For doing nothing, by the way, of course. There's lots of likes we can like, but this is the sort of nonsense that comes out of these people's mouths. Incredible.
What about cleaning the oceans? What about plastic in the ocean? Stuff we can actually do.
Green environmental policies.
Why are we putting up these massive windmills that catch animals and they've got a hum and a buzz that are actually powered by coal and gas? I'm just looking at it and just thinking it just doesn't sound realistic that we'll achieve it by 2050.
Nana knows that we're not going to achieve it at all. So she knows that. But she's got a job to do by staying in the middle of it. But I'm sure she fully realises this is all codswallop.
I think it's not realistic we can achieve it by 2050 if we basically put our hands up and say we can't do anything about this and take a defeatist approach. Clearly, there needs to be a sort of international engagement. That's why the COP summits are so important.
Delusional COP summits are important. Look at this graph. This is the CO2 growth. And all the summits in the world that we've had plotted on it, they don't make any difference at all. This is delusion again. These people just talk, but there's nothing in the brain there to give any sort of knowledge behind what they're saying. And yet I'm not saying they're unintelligent people, but they're brainwashed people.
Clearly, it's important for the smaller, disproportionately wealthy countries such as the UK, which release more emissions relative to their size than others, to I suppose lead by example, or at least show that we are invested in this to encourage other people to join us.
There we are, typical left-wing stuff. We should set the example. And China and India, who were given permission to build as many coal power stations as they wanted between 2016 COP Summit and 2030, which they have done, building hundreds and hundreds, all of which are going to continue to burn coal after 2030 on a grand scale. And somehow we're going to influence them by us with our less than 1% of emissions doing something. This is a crazy world. And these people haven't thought about what they're spouting. Mouth is being engaged without thought here.
And all these things are going to be necessary in the future.
Well, if you believe in net zero, let us know. gbnews.com/your say.